Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time now for us to speak about specific types of materials that we can consider in our recycling journey, and we're going to start with plastics. Here they are in the picture. They've been blamed for a lot of most of the degradation that we see in the environment, and the animals that get unfortunate to end up eating them end up dying in the ocean. We have lost a lot of penguins and sea turtles, etc., because of plastics. So in order to help the world reduce the manufacturing of plastics by using the plastics that we already have, here is what we need to do. First of all, we define plastic as any synthetic materials that come from polymers that can be molded into various shapes and forms. They are commonly used in many products because of their durability, flexibility, and resistance to water and chemicals. So here is how plastics are recycled. First of all, after picking them, rather, we start by collecting them from households, businesses, and recycling centers, and then we sort them at recycling facilities. We have to sort them according to type. There are PET plastics, there are SDPE plastics, there are PVC plastics, and there are LDPE plastics. They are all different. They have different melting temperatures, and they have to be processed in a different way. Otherwise, some of them do not mix if you try to mix them, and they are used in different purposes and functions. So I also have to separate them according to color, because clear plastics and colored plastics and opaque plastics can never mix. They used in different industries, so it's best to recycle the same material of the same color rather than mixing them together. So we also have to sort them according to the level or the amount of contaminants that are in there. First of all, remove the labels, remove the caps and the non-plastic materials that you can find, whether they are metals or paper. They are also not going to help us when we are melting the plastic in order to make new ones out of them. So sorting is done manually or using automated systems like infrared sensors or air classifiers. They're the ones that can quickly gather the different materials under similar piles. So after that, then we have to wash the plastic to remove the dirt, adhesives, and food residues and labels. So we do this by passing them through a washing machine with water and detergents. Or we can use specialized machines that can remove contaminants like metal using magnets or filters. And we can clean plastics, cleaning plastics of high quality, and they will also help us produce high quality recycled material. If you cannot use any of the machines, or if you don't have them, then you can also use your own hands as well. After that, then we can then shred the plastics. They are fed into shredders that cut them into small pieces or flakes, because shredded plastics are easier to handle and process in subsequent stages. If you do not have the machine, you can also use a scissors or anything that can work for you. So here is the plastic shredder machine, and this is where we put the plastics in there so that they can be shredded into smaller pieces. Obviously, as they are right now, this is a large machine, as you can see. So if you do not have it, then it's quite advisable to also use your own hands. After that, then we have to start separating them. By separating them, we can also use density separation, where denser plastics, or rather heavier plastics, will sink, while lighter plastics are going to float. So this can be an easier way of identifying between PVC, which is denser, and between LDPE types of plastics, which are going to float. We can also use electrostatic separation. It separates plastic based on their electrical properties, and we can also use air separation, which uses airflow to separate materials based on weight and size. Any of these machines that you can get can also help you to get the job done quicker. But here is the stage that actually turns old plastic into new plastic, which is called melting. The shredded plastic is then heated in a machine called a melt extruder to melt it down. So different plastics obviously will require specific, or rather different temperatures to melt without degrading. So after melting the plastic, then we do what we call pelletizing. And this is when the molten plastic is cooled and shaped into pellets, which are small uniform beads. Then the pellets are easier to transport and use in manufacturing new products, especially if you do not have a mold, or if you do not have a specific product that you want to manufacture with your recycled plastics. You can be able to just maybe consider selling the pellets in this form to the industries, so that they can be able to manufacture their own products as time goes on. So this is a machine that we usually use. This is a small melt extruder. This is where the pellets end up coming out of, and then they can be used in making the toys that you see in the background. But this is the industrial size melt extruder. The plastics are fed into this tank that you see, and then they are melted in there, and then when they come out, the pellets are going to be able to be extracted, and then they can be further used in the industrial processor. So after melting and pelletizing, then it's time to inspect the plastic, or rather pellets, for quality, consistency, and contamination levels. So the test that we have to make may include checking the melting point, the tensile strength, and the color, etc. And then the recycled pellets can then be melted and placed on a mold to produce various shapes like bottles, containers, plates, pipes, and industrial tools. You can also sell them or use them at home. If you do not have the mold, then consider selling them to manufacturers to create new products like bottles, containers, pipes, or textiles. So here is the mold that we're talking about. In this factory, they are making bottles. So there are the bottles in the background, and this heavy metal that the technician is holding is the one that we call a mold. So if you do not have any of the machines that we've been talking about, we can also use a process that we call improvising. So this is what we do when you don't have the machines, because we can also recycle plastics without any of the machines that we spoke about. We use the following materials. Rather, we must use plastics. We must have a scissors or a utility knife, a heat source. It can be a heat gun, a stovetop or oven. You need a non-sticking mold, especially silicone works well here, or anything that is heat resistant, a parchment paper or a non-stick surface, and non-sticky surface rather, and protective gears. We can talk of gloves and masks for fumes, etc., because handling plastics can be very dangerous. They can burn you. So what we do with those materials, that we separate them by type. We have already mentioned that we have to look for the recycling symbol with the number. If it's number 1, then it might be PET type, a PET type of plastic. It's number 2, then it might be an HD PE type, etc. Then we follow the same steps that we discussed previously. You wash the plastics to remove the dirt, the grease, or the labels. We use the scissors or utility knife to cut the plastics into small pieces. If we do not have a shredder machine, this will help it melt evenly. And then after that, we prepare it for melting by lining a tray or mold with parchment paper so that it does not stick when it is being melted. And then we arrange those plastic pieces in the mold. So after that, then we take that mold, I will put it inside a heat source in order to melt it. Use a heat source to carefully melt the plastic. Options include an oven set at a low temperature around 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and monitor closely. Or you can use a heat gun that can directly hit the plastic until they melt, but ensure proper ventilation to avoid inhaling fumes, because some of them can be dangerous. After melting, then we get to the finishing part. where we start shaping the plastic. Once they've melted, we can then press or mold the plastic into the desired shape using a tool or manipulating the mold. We can then cool and solidify the molten plastic by allowing the plastic to cool completely in the mold. Cooling may take between 1 to 2 hours depending on the thickness. If it's too thick, then it has to take a little bit longer, but if it is just thin, then it can take even less than an hour. So after that, we can then trim and use the plastic. Remove the plastic from the mold and then trim the edges or reshape them as needed using a knife or sandpaper. After that, you can then use the plastic to create either plastic bricks, either craft items, or other basic tools. You can use them to create beads, coasters, decorative items, brick molds for construction, or other DIY products, just depending on what your clients need. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. You can be able to start your recycling business using the plastics that you just pick from the road without spending even a single cent.